The next term that we are going to understand is meaning. Now we have already understood the term interpretation. Now let's try to understand meaning in that context. We have understood that interpretation is coming to a meaning. It is understanding of the meaning. Now, what is meaning exactly? You must have studied some semantics last year. Semantics is the study of meaning. Semantics is the branch of linguistics which studies meaning of the language, whereas pragmatic studies meaning of the language in the context, whereas semantics understands meaning with reference to the language itself. So meaning is a property of any verbal structures. Verbal means language, you can say. It is a product of syntax. You must be familiar with uh, phonemes, morphemes, syntax, etc. So it is the product of syntax. Syntax is what syntax is the arrangement of words into a sentence, into a phrase, etc. Means it deals with the study of the arrangement and organization of words into phrases and clauses and sentences. So it indicates the grammatical relation between different elements of that sentence. And another important aspect of meaning is rhythm. Rhythm controls the distribution of emphasis. For example, when you talk in English, you follow certain phonological rules, phonetic rules. We talk about, the pronunciation, accent, intonation, etc. So that is what rhythm is. So it controls the distribution of emphasis and more complicated verbal structures. So meaning serves an indicator of the way what is said to be taken as rhythm. And when we read, the reading of meaning into literary text, when you understand the meaning into a literary text, it is an operation which takes place within the mind of the reader. Meaning, is a mental process as such. Understanding the meaning is a mental process. It takes place in your mind. And when we talk about rhythm and syntax in a text, which
Yes.
is indicated in syntax and in the rhythm, means like all linguistic indicators, the indications of rhythm and syntax are frequently ambiguous because language does not work like mathematics. Okay, means it is up to the interpretation, up to the understanding of the reader. There are certain people who argue that this is a process in which the writer of the text is left behind, and the reading in of meaning left in the control of the reader. It is up to the reader to find the meaning. Once the writer writes, okay, he is left behind. You might be knowing something about Rolla Barthes and other postmodernists, post-structuralists, who thought that Rolla Barthes wrote a book, an essay named Death of the Author. Once the author writes a poem, his job is over, and the meaning comes in the control of reader. And the reader is free to read an infinite variety of meanings into that verbal structure. Verbal structure means a language structure. And this view is gaining ground in contemporary literary theory, just now referred. That freedom, and this freedom has been exaggerated by postmodernist critics such as Rolla Barthes and others, Stanley Fish and others. They take a position, The position that they adopt is that an implicit social contract exists between writer and reader, and this contract allows considerable freedom because two minds are involved, the writers and the readers, in reading the text, but which it is irresponsible. Okay, miss, there is a problem in understand the freedom is kind of irresponsible. Means it may come up with any kind of interpretation, and the freedom of the reader is as interpreter is limited by the rhythm built into any complex text by the writer. Means we talk about the freedom, but this freedom is not freedom as such because it is controlled by the complex text created by the writer, and this establishes an authorial voice heard by the readers. Inward ear, yesterday we referred to inward ear. Inward ear means that we hear in that particular poem. For example, when you read a poem, you think, yes, this is the rhythm. Okay. So it is a kind of sound of sense. Rhythm is a kind of sound of sense. We'll talk about that when we are going to talk about we talk about sound of sense. The terms beginning with yes. So when we talk of the meaning of a symphony or painting, for example, a music or painting, it is better regarded as involving a metaphor. Now try to compare the metaphor we employ when we speak of a building as making a statement. Miss, building is a kind of, when we build something, that is a kind of making statement, or making a statement is kind of building. It has a structure. So this is how you can understand meaning in the context of syntax and rhythm. And there can be certain aspects which control the meaning of the text. The meaning is not free from the author's control as well, but at the same time, the reader takes liberty to come up with interpretations as per his background. So this is what we can talk about meaning.